Hi, welcome back. Mr. Majeika, Humphrey Carpenter, Chapter 7. If you remember yesterday, Mr. Potter, the head teacher, was flying after being given the potion by Hamish Bigmore. Naughty Hamish. Chapter 7, Dental Problems. Mr. Potter wants everyone to clean their teeth very thoroughly tomorrow, said Mr. Majeika to Class 3 one afternoon about a week before the end of term. There's a dentist coming to teach you about careful brushing and how to fight tooth decay, and Mr. Potter says he doesn't want everyone's mouths looking and smelling like the insides of old dustbins. Please, Mr. Magic, my teeth are always clean, said a voice. It was Melanie. Yes, Melanie, I'm sure they are, said Mr. Majeika, but not everyone is as careful as you. Melanie's teeth are clean all right, said Hamish Bigmore, but look how ugly they are. They stick out all over the place. Unfortunately, this was quite true. Melanie did have sticking out teeth, but of course, being told this made her cry even louder than usual. Ah, I hate you, Hamish Bigmore. You're horrid, she wailed. Don't you call me horrid, answered Hamish. Just think how horrid you look with those teeth. In fact, you look just like Count Dracula. Melanie's got teeth like a vampire. Yeah, horrid old vampire. Be quiet, Hamish Bigmore, said Mr. Majeika. But Hamish, as usual, wouldn't pay any attention. Vampire, vampire, he shouted. Melanie looks like a vampire. Mr. Majeika suddenly lost his temper. I'll show you who's a vampire, he cried, and pointed a finger at Hamish. Hamish Bigmore opened his mouth to say something rude, and then stopped because everyone was suddenly laughing at him. Vampire, vampire, they were shouting. What's got into you, you sillies, he asked them. But they would only answer, vampire, vampire. Here, said Pandora Green, take a look at this. She kept a pocket mirror in her desk for putting on lipstick when Mr. Majeika wasn't looking. Now she held it up to Hamish Bigmore. He stared in the mirror, then turned on Mr. Majeika. Look what you've done, Mr. Majeika, he shouted. It was perfectly true. Hamish Bigmore had suddenly grown vampire's teeth. They were very long and pointed and stuck right out of his mouth. Two were especially long and sharp. It was as nasty a sight as anything in the horror films on television. Oh dear, Mr. Majeika was saying. I seem to have done it again. These old spells just come back into my head when I least expect them. And then I say them to myself without thinking. And then, hey presto, the damage is done. But surely you know how to take this spell off him, asked Jody. It can't be as difficult as the frog. Mr. Majeika shook his head. It's quite an easy one, he said. In fact, you don't need a spell to get rid of the vampire teeth, I remember that. Hamish himself has to do something to have his teeth become normal again, but I can't for the life of me think what it is. Hamish Bigmore himself had been sitting silently through this. Now he snarled between his vampire teeth. Well, if you can't take these teeth away, I'm going to use them. I'll be a real vampire and bite you all. And you know what happens when you're bitten by a vampire? You become a vampire yourself. Ha ha! Don't be silly, said Mr. Majeika. You're not a real vampire. You just happen to have grown a set of vampire's teeth. But I can tell you that if you start behaving in a foolish fashion, Hamish Bigmore, you can be sure of one thing. Those teeth will never go away. Just you put a scarf around your face to hide them and go home quietly and tell everyone there that you've got toothache and go straight to bed, and with luck in the morning they'll have gone. For once, Hamish Bigmore did as he was told, but the next morning the vampire teeth were still there. Thomas and Pete could see them the moment Hamish Bigmore came into Class 3 and unwrapped the scarf from around his face. Whatever did your mum and dad say? Asked Pete. They're away, said Hamish. There's an old aunt of mine looking after me, and she's too short-sighted to notice. Mr. Magic should go to prison for doing this to me. It was all your own fault, said Thomas. But what's the dentist going to say? This was exactly the thought that crossed Mr. Majeika's mind when he arrived in the classroom and saw that Hamish's teeth hadn't changed back in the night. "Oh dear," he said, "this is going to be very awkward." When the dentist came, it proved to be a lady. Hamish Bigmore had been put in a far corner of the room in the hope that she'd not look at him, but she went carefully round everyone in the class, making them all open their mouths. "Now," she said brightly, peering into Thomas's, "have you been brushing away regularly with Betty Brush and Tommy Toothpaste? You must remember to fight Dan Decay and Percy Plaque, or horrid old Terry Toothache will come along and make your life a misery." "She's treating us as if we were toddlers in the nursery class," grumbled Jody. But there was nothing anyone could do to stop the lady dentist chattering away in this daft fashion. Finally she got to Hamish Bigmore, who, on Mr. Majeika's instructions, had the scarf wrapped tightly around his mouth. "Who have we here?" she said brightly. Hamish got to his feet and started to make for the door. "He's not feeling very well," said Mr. Majeika. "I think he needs to go to the lavatory." "Well, he can just wait a minute," said the lady dentist firmly. "Let's unwrap that scarf, my little friend, and see what we find beneath. Are Dan Decay and Percy Black lurking there? Or have you been a good boy and used Betty Brush and Tommy Toothpaste?" Hamish Bigmore had had enough of this. He pulled the scarf from his face and bared his horrid long pointed teeth at the lady dentist. "No!" he cried. "I haven't been a good boy. I'm Victor the Vampire. I'm going to drink your blood." The lady dentist gave a shrill scream and rushed from the classroom. "Now really," said Mr. Majeika to Hamish Bigmore when order had been restored, "that was not necessary. You might have given her a heart attack." As it was, the lady dentist had driven away very fast in her little car, saying she never wanted to look at school children's teeth again. "I'm sorry you've still got those teeth," continued Mr. Majeika to Hamish, "but really, behaving so naughtily won't help. I'm still trying to find out what it is you must do to get rid of them. I've been looking through all my old spell books, and in the meantime, I advise you to be as good as possible." Suddenly, he stopped. "What's the matter?" asked Jody. "I've just remembered!" cried Mr. Majeika in delight. "I've remembered what Hamish has to do to get rid of those teeth. He has to be good." See you tomorrow to find out if Hamish can be good.